What's up, guys? This is the CJ Murray Podcast, an exploration of music philosophy from a Christian perspective. These are stories and insights to encourage and challenge our views of music, God, and who we are. Thanks for listening, and now, today's conversation. Daniel, welcome to this podcast.
Thank you very much.
Super good to have you.
Great.
So you were interested in talking about students marketing themselves like during college and after college. So why don't you just jump into your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So it's a very big one, right? It's a full conversation, and I'm certainly no pro.
Sure.
Because I am learning these things along the way. But one of the really great things about this is that there are many avenues that you can take. There are multiple different opportunities for each unique person, and that's really great. And so for me, I guess I can just kind of share some of my experiences, and maybe that'll inspire or give some ideas for others who are interested as well. Some of the things that are really important to me that I've seen have been fruitful anyway, is being educated on what is currently going on in your field of study. So I'm more inclined toward the composition route, classical music composition. If we want to get super niche, sacred, liturgical, choral, classical composition, right? So that's a lot of C's there, right?
But you know the niche and you can articulate it, and that's
sure,
that
yeah.
matters.
And so it's something. Not only is it something that I feel passionate about, but it's also something that just takes a little bit of time to, through middle school, high school, college, figure out what is something that I'm able to what is something that I'm able to do reliably, and is there a need for it? Of course, that's always a big part, right? And then, am I able to fill that need? And a great way to learn what that is for yourself is to be involved in a lot of different kinds of facets of your field. So mine is music, right?
Yeah.
So I play in a lot of different genres of music. I play for a jazz group here in town. I play for my church orchestra. I've been in choirs. I've gotten to play in bands and orchestras. I've sought to learn a good number of instruments so that I can play in those different ensembles and whatnot. And not only does that give you an appreciation for those different styles and whatnot, and kind of help to refine your musical language, but it also gives you opportunities to meet people, and that's huge. When you can make that eye-to-eye contact, shake someone's hand, smile and say, "Hi, my name's Daniel. It's great to meet you. I don't think we've met before," or "Hey, we've played in a couple ensembles before, and I don't know if I've formally gotten to meet you yet, but my name's Daniel. It's great to meet you, and it's a pleasure to have you here today."
Yeah.
Especially if you're part of that ensemble and they're coming in. Of course, be sincere about it, but that's a real great way to connect with people.
Especially as a composer,
Right.
and writing orchestrations. I mean, it's such a collaborative skill set that you need. I mean, what's your craft if you can't find people to play it?
Yeah, right. Yeah. You can have a computer play it for you, but it's way less fun.
Oh, yeah.
In my opinion, anyway.
Right.
I love getting to do something like this, or get to sit down with your friends and make some fun music or whatever. Like I was chatting about this with my parents the other day, just in conversation. A good friend of mine, his family, a friend of mine that his family is very musical, and one of the really neat things to get to do with that family is to sit down and just in their living room, play bluegrass or sing some old, 40s jazz tunes or stuff like that. And there is so much joy in that. I would say just as much as doing a concert personally.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, and plus, I mean, when you can sit down and do that, and of course, like we're talking about marketing and networking,
right.
But I think ideally, when it comes to networking, is that, you meet people, and in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, like maybe there's some musical value down the road in this. But just being the type of person that no matter who you networked with, at the end of the day, you can get to the place where you can hang out in the living room and jam out.
Right.
Just because, that's what life is really about. And if you're only business minded and not the type of person to just connect just sometimes for the sake of connecting, sometimes the most genuine relationships still lead to stuff. It's not that you connected for like a self-centered means, but it's like, hey, I value you as a person, and like we do music together, and maybe it leads to stuff down the road.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And if those relationships are illegitimate, then of course you do need to build business relationships. But if those relationships are illegitimate, you're insincere about actually having a healthy interaction with that person, one built on charity and goodwill and seeking their best interest, then those relationships don't last, right?
Yeah.
I heard a great term coined. I don't know who actually coined it, but Tim Keller was the one that I heard it from, and that's of transactional relationships. So you give me something so that I can get something out of it. If I give you what you want out of it, that's a business thing, right? And there is room for that, but it's not relationship in the purest sense, which may be that of sacrifice and donating out of benevolence and goodwill.
Sure. Sure. So like, I know that part of how this topic came up is, so some people said that they came to you, out of curiosity of like networking, marketing. What would you say to people that are like midway through college and are still figuring out their niche or figuring out their path, and they want to learn how to brand themselves? Like when I think of branding, I know I'm adding on to my question, but when I think of branding, I think of it more through like graphic design, through business as a whole. If you're like an instrumentalist, how does branding work with that type of craft? Like, again, thinking of the college students.
Yeah. So I think it's a mindset that you need to place yourself in, that of pursuing really making yourself the best that you can be. So that's super Disney cliche, right?
Be the best you can be.
Be the best you can be.
And a dream.
Right. Dream big and you'll get... Okay. Yeah. So like where the rubber actually meets the road, right, is just what I referred to at the very beginning. Find what's being done currently. Find like what is modern. Okay. Just because it's modern, it's not necessarily bad. Again, just slight parenthetical thought here. Paul Washer made a really great statement. He said, be modern so long as culture, or so long as what you're doing does not contradict scripture. Now, in a great many ways, the culture contradicts scripture.
Sure.
But be modern where it's not contradicting. Okay, so be modern, be in the now. I think that it's great to use the technology and the resources we have. And it's really great to look for those who are professionals in their field, maybe even reach out to them. If they're willing to donate their time to type you an email in response to a question that you may have.
And you could be surprised who does respond.
Absolutely. No, this is great because there are so many people out there that are actually really invested in the integrity of the craft that they're working for. So find what is modern and do your best to replicate it to the best of your ability. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. If people are doing something and it's working and it's an industry standard, then do it, adopt it. Like that's one less thing that you have to guess on. And when you guess wrong, looking kind of like an amateur, right?
Yeah.
So that's not an insult, but it's just the reality of if you don't know your field, people are going to see that. Professionals are going to see that. They're going to pick up on it real fast, and they're going to say, they're definitely still learning, and they won't have a good first impression. So anyway, that's what I would say. Yeah.
One hack that I would also throw out there, just in deciding to pick up this podcast again and also making a slew of other YouTube videos, I've kind of been in the weeds on how to do YouTube. And one of the hacks that they said was make an account or a specific account or even your main account, and like make it a point to only subscribe to your competitors and only watch your competitors, because then the algorithm will only feed you all the people you're trying to replicate or copy or learn from.
Yeah.
And then that way it helps you stay in the present, helps you keep in touch with, what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And of course that's in the YouTube sense, but even in an instrumentalist sense, if you're wanting to, of course, if an online presence, I think that is something that you'd want to do. And then of course we talked about networking in terms of like, actually here's a question I would ask you. So like if you're a performance studies major, you're wanting to network, what kind of people would you best want to network with in the field? Or like, how do you get into that?
I'm not sure. I assume what you mean is by those who are seeking to be performers, in the grander sense.
Sure.
So that I will answer as a music individual, and this can be applied, and maybe it be acting and such. One of the things that I've looked for finding people to connect with are people that I myself am attracted to as one who loves music. So finding a group who, man, their videography is clean. They have really great, they just have a really great blend as an ensemble, great chemistry together. People who respond to emails, like that's a simple one. If I email someone and 10 days later they get back with me, they may be the best group, but I'm probably not going to be interested in working with them.
Sure.
Email the same day if you can, or respond quickly. Like, let's get out of this culture of like, oh, it's weird to text back, right back.
Oh,
no, text back immediately if you can. If you can, of course, if you can't, you can't. But
Sure.
if you can, it leaves a good impression. So anyway, finding people that just are really good at communication, that's so important, and we are blessed to have ChatGPT on our side these days.
ChatGPT is incredible, especially as a learning tool.
It's great, isn't it? And I run all my emails through ChatGPT before I send them, especially people that I'm working with on a business relationship. I'll type out my email. I don't ask it to make an email for me, but I type out my email, copy, paste, say check grammar and spelling, : paste it, and then send it. And then it will say, sorry, I keep bumping this, my apologies. One of my not skills is facial awareness. But copy paste, and then it'll say, your email, blah, blah, blah. Here is a improved and clearer email. Of course, skim through it because sometimes it'll change information on you.
Sure.
Skim through it and then copy, paste. When it comes to business things, I really don't. You don't need to put your friend or sincerely. Just put regards : or regards, comma, or all the best, comma. Something that is neutral in tone, and really that's what you want to be. You want to be cordial, friendly, professional, but neutral in tone. Always complimentary where it's appropriate. Don't be overly. No, I don't want to say kissing up, but you know what I'm saying, like respectful, right? It can bring too much attention to something, and that's not always the case. That's not always a good thing. So, okay, so I like working with people who are great at communicating.
Yeah.
Of course, good musicians, people who are kind of in that neutral. They're not really over the top in one way or another. I love working with people who are on time and prepared. That's incredible, and it's incredibly invaluable as well. I like working with people who don't make making mistakes as well. Don't make excuses.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna do something, either don't make the commitment if you really can't do it, or follow through. And this is particularly something I wish I had started doing. And again, I'm not a perfect person on this, but I wish I had started practicing this better as a high schooler, because I would tell a director or something, hey, I think I can make it to this rehearsal. I can make it to this this ensemble's rehearsals every week. Yeah. And then once or twice a week, I would be like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm running late. I'm not going to be there on time. That's really not an enjoyable person to work with. And you'll lose contacts quickly. You'll lose good rapport. And really, I mean, in an industry that is very much not Christian, we ought to do our best to
gotta keep good testimony.
Yeah, we need to do our best to be hardworking and do our best to maintain that testimony that glorifies God. Yeah. Not for the sake of impressing people and getting the glory, but we may be the only opportunity that individual gets to encounter with Christ. Yeah. And so that's something that we ought to seek to work on as well.
You want to do everything you can to not burn a bridge to a good conversation down the road.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you coming up have a premiere for stuff that you've worked on.
I do. Yeah.
So how did that come together? And like, how does some of this stuff apply?
So that preparation thing is really important, and then doing the research and finding what is standard is also applicable here. That's been said. The other side to that is having put in the work to study with a composition teacher and be writing for over 10 years. So I was very fortunate to have gotten to study with an individual. I studied with 4 composition teachers now. That either means that I'm the problem or
that can go extremely one of two ways.
Right. I'm always a little hestant to share that. I'm like, should I say that I've been studying, or should I show
now simultaneously or like chronologically?
Chronologically. Okay. Yeah. So the work has been there, and then also looking to other composers and seeing what they've done. How do they format their music? Elaine Gould has a great book. I think it's called Behind the Bars, and it's like the industry standard for music notation engraving. And then Sad Haddad on YouTube has just been such a wealth of knowledge, and others as well, David Bruce and many others. So I had been writing a good a couple of pieces. Yeah. I had reached out to some ensembles to potentially record them. Some of them said yes, some said no. And I was at the time gearing up to look toward masters in composition. Okay. I had a really neat opportunity with some of that. And so Sweet. I joined some Facebook groups that were primarily for composers, that was just like, modern composers or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
Just found a whole bunch that at least had like a couple thousand people in them.
Sweet.
And on each one of those I said, and I also ran this through ChatGPT, with the advising of my composition teacher, Peter Aldens at the Laundry School of Music, he said 3 pieces, portfolio, start sending them to people. So I just went on those groups and I said, my name is Daniel. I had just had some professional pictures taken. A really, really great friend of mine who's just a fantastic photographer. She helped me with some professional photos. Nice. Posted one of those pictures. A short artist bio, less than 150 words. It needs to be less than that. And I posted those 3 pieces. Yeah. And just said, hey, my name's Daniel. I'm a recent I'm graduating in December of 2024. My plan is to study composition, and I was interested if any of you would be willing and interested to take some time and just read through these pieces. I'd be happy to send them to you. And if you have any feedback on them, just let me know. Anything is free. Like, you can make any comments. If it's an aesthetic comment, the music doesn't look good, or you like it, you don't.
Wow. It can be just peer review.
Anything. I just want you. And really what that is, it's less I appreciate the feedback they give.
Yeah, for sure.
But the goal is to get music in their hands. That they see.
It kind of helps get your name out there.
It gets your name out there. And I got a slew of people that responded. I mean, about 100 people, and it was really great. And
dude, that's awesome.
one lady in particular, Madison Marie McIntosh, she saw my post and she liked it and she listened to some of the pieces that I posted. It resonated with her, and no pun intended. And
That's awesome.
And so she reached out on LinkedIn, actually, because we weren't Facebook friends at the time.
Yeah.
Reached out on LinkedIn and just very kindly offered an interest in collaborating. And so she shared her heart on the topic of the cantata, which is the messianic prophecies of Psalm 22, and their renewed interest since we have come in contact with the Dead Sea Scrolls and the prophecies there in Isaiah. And she was sharing just her heart. She's basically wanting to have a piece of music that expresses the depth, the suffering, but the need for Christ as our Messiah in a world that is suffering right now. And she saw Psalm 22 as being a really great piece to bring that to pass. And so we've been working together since then. That was about June of 2024.
Wow. And you graduated in December of 2024?
I did, December.
Okay, so then right now, are you in master's?
I'll start that in the fall, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So right now you're kind of on a hiatus.
Yeah.
Okay,
and
cool.
The Lord worked that out so nice. I mean, just so graciously, because I was in the process of applying for the military, and the Lord very clearly closed that door and very clearly opened another door to go to seminary. And so this has just been such a kind of a liberating time to write as I need. And so anyway, we have that premiere in Palm Beach. What is he? I always say West Palm Beach, but that's just because that's what people kind of are more familiar with. But it's Palm Beach Gardens, which is just like a 10-minute drive north of there. And that'll be at Gardens Presbyterian Church. I think it's 7 p.m. May 3rd. May 3rd. Yeah, so it's coming up here.
So about a month.
So by I think what you were sharing is about the time this comes out, it'll be a bit past that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So like this will be a hindsight. Well, I mean, as far as
we'll
students,
see how, yeah.
Well, I mean, for all I know, maybe this will be the first episode I post instead of the last.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, just while it's present.
If you're in the West Palm Beach area.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple really neat things
Love to have you.
in there. So, like, number one, your LinkedIn was up to date.
That's true.
I hate to say it, but especially in like, I think music circles. Well, okay, music circles. Part of me says the LinkedIn isn't quite as important. It depends. So like for me, like I'm in electronic music, and I did some research on what types of social media should I focus on.
Right. Yeah.
LinkedIn kind of fell to the bottom of the list.
Okay.
Just because of, like what kind of a following do you want? Well, if you're looking for a following, LinkedIn isn't where you get a following per se. You can.
Right.
But it's much more professional business level. So it is good. But what matters is you kept up to date with it. My wife is studio art, graphic design. She actually, she just landed a client through LinkedIn.
Great. Congratulations.
Yeah. Like they found her profile. They loved her portfolio. Yeah. They reached out, said, "Hey, we have this startup. We need branding. Would you be interested?" And so it's been a conversation, and so that ball's rolling. But all that to say,
that's fantastic.
LinkedIn is so important.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, just being in Facebook groups, we're talking about marketing and networking. And that's actually as of a few weeks ago, I revived my Facebook because I deleted it years ago. And then there came a point when, well, one, I wanted to make a Facebook page for myself, but you can only invite friends on Facebook. And I'm like, I need.
So like a business page that you made?
Yeah. Or like any music that I make, like I want to also be able to put on a Facebook page so people can find me on Facebook. Mm-hmm. But the other thing too that I knew that I would miss out on is Facebook groups. And I think that Facebook groups can be so important on just finding people in a certain niche or interests, whatever. But I just think it's so cool that you had the insight to find a bunch of groups, put yourself out there for free. And I just think it's so cool that It worked really well. I'm like really happy to hear that.
Thank you. Well, and like all glory to God, because he's the one who, of course, I trust laid it on Madison's heart to study out those things about the prophecies and such, and have a kindred spirit in wanting to profess the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so this is, we're not pastors, but we're still preachers of the gospel. And so even as musicians or as music tech guys, right, or as artists, I mean, we are called to share the gospel.
And she's a vocalist, right?
She's mezzo soprano.
Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure I follow her on Instagram.
Oh, okay, yeah.
In fact,
she's great. Yeah,
in fact, I think she followed me, and I didn't know who she was, but I looked at her profile. I'm like, yeah, she seems like a really good singer.
Yeah.
And then I followed her back, and then it was like a few weeks later that you guys were doing the post together, and I was like, oh, well, that's cool. That's a really neat blend of worlds.
Yeah,
but yeah,
she's really neat. She's such a great person to work with. She'll be up at Carnegie this upcoming April 1st, so that's a Tuesday, doing the Vivaldi Magnificat. So
wow.
Yeah, so she's so fun to work with, and really fantastic. So this is a cantata for her. It's dedicated to her. I've already shared that with her, so I'm okay with sharing that with you.
Okay,
I thought
cool,
I was like, should I share? No, I've already shared that with Madison, so she knows that. And then another lady, Nat Simone, she is a soprano, and then Inu Lee is our pianist, and so we're very excited about it. Yeah.
Wow. So how many pieces are you performing? The 3 pieces? Performing more like, what's that lineup kind of look like?
So the Sabachthani is the title of the cantata. That's of course familiar if you're familiar with the words of Christ on the cross.
Eli,
Lama Sabachthani, exactly. Yeah. It's an Aramaic transliteration of why have you have forsaken me, essentially. Which we know the ending, right? So great there. But Sabachthani will premiere. That's about 30 minutes. And then I have another piece that's premiering that night as well. Ogni altra cosa, which is an Italian just text, and that's also premiering that evening. I don't think I have a third one though that's premiering that evening. We may have 1 or 2 other pieces that have already premiered. What would be an adaptation for voice, since they're it might be my Agnus Dei that we would have adapted.
Sure.
I actually haven't made that decision yet, but we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, you have over a month, which time surprisingly flies by faster than we can imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding.
One day you're celebrating your 10th birthday party, and now we're full-grown adults.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, man. No, that's awesome. Okay, so how would you say your passion for music has evolved over the past few years? I think we had I think the last time you were on this podcast was over a year ago.
Yeah.
So again, time goes by, but how would you say your passion for music has kind of been evolving over the past stretch of time? Or if it stayed the same, just walk me through that again.
Yeah. I mean, the love of music kind of has manifested itself in different ways. I started out playing the dulcimer.
Was that your first instrument?
That was my first instrument.
Are you serious?
Yeah, just my grandma's dulcimer as a second grader.
It's the weirdest first instrument.
It's a very strange. Yeah,
well, at least for a Western, Western human being.
Yeah, it was the coolest instrument. It was handmade. You use a quill or whatever to pluck the strings, and then you do the thing. It sits on your lap.
Yeah.
I don't know. I actually don't know where that is now. Maybe in my storage unit, but I'm in the process of moving.
Out of all the instruments
Out of all the instruments, yeah.
Oh, yeah. The slew. How many instruments do you play again?
If we're being very specific, it could be categorized so that it's not quite as impressive as it sounds, but it's about 50 instruments. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
I used to put down if someone asked me how many instruments I played, I'd be like, well, I tap my pencil on a desk.
Right, yeah.
I can whistle.
You do a little beatboxing.
Do a little.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no. Oh, man. Wow. Okay, so regardless of how nuanced any of those instruments are, how would you say you use those to like really express yourself? Like piano being the main, like, are there specific instruments that like, if you want to express something, like your go-to is this set or this type of thing? Like, how do you go about that? Like, how does that incorporate into your creative process?
I just like multiple different genres of music. I mean,
Sure.
today alone, I was listening to the Beethoven string quartet, the first string quartet before I came over here. I like country music. I like jazz. I like, Stevie Wonder,
Yeah.
I like Jacob Collier. I like
And
a little bit of everybody,
I have mixed feelings about Jacob Collier, and only because of this. I find on one hand, he is one of the most encouraging, inspiring musicians. And on the other hand, he makes me feel terrible because, like, no human being will really kind of match that. It's
because no one has to, right? Like, there's no reason to.
No one has to. But I think there's also a part of, like, in a more neutral light, I think that as a musician, we feel like there's so much we can express. And it's so incredible to watch someone that just like breathes it.
Yeah.
Now granted,
absolutely. Yeah.
That's also to say that like we couldn't fathom the amount of time that he has spent immersed in that. And so for that, it's like, what do you expect when you spend that much time in something? But, I don't know. I'm just curious. I know I asked you a question.
That's okay.
But just because it came up, what are your thoughts on Jacob Collier?
I think he's a great guy. I think he's such a positive influence for the joy of music.
100%.
So I'm very supportive of number one, his intellect. I mean, he pairs the intellectual side of music so nicely, so well with the emotional side of music, and you can't separate the one from the other. You can, of course, dissect one from another, but you got to have them both. And I think he does a pretty good job of pairing them. I would say that his harmonic vocabulary is so. He speaks music, like you said, just so fluently. But does he connect with every person that he plays for? No, I mean, like, he's not an ace of all. What is it? Like, ace of all trades? Is that
Jack of all trades? Master of none.
Yeah, right. Like, he's not able to communicate with everybody he talks to,
and he doesn't try to.
Right? But he's, he does a great job with his field, and he's particularly a great jazz musician.
He went to college for I think a year for jazz.
Okay.
Like that, because I watched like the 2-hour podcast between Jacob Collier and Colin and Samir. It's a really good episode.
I'll check that out.
But
that's great.
he told the story of how after high school he went to college to study jazz for about a year and a half, I think. And then it was in that time he published his first YouTube video.
Right.
And that's when oh my word. Oh, his main influence.
He really loves Stevie Wonder.
Yeah, and it wasn't
Herbie Hancock?
It might have been Herbie Hancock. But like one of his jazz heroes saw the video.
Probably Herbie Hancock then, yeah.
Yeah, reached out to him.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine getting that call. But but yeah, so like so he did get some formal education.
Yeah.
But no, that's a good podcast episode.
Okay.
Jacob Collier, Colin and Samir. It's a really good episode.
Okay, I'll check that out. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I think he's a good musician. I would say that when someone like that is present, in the world, when we feel that, like that burden of obligation to replicate something like that, like it's okay, but we don't need to.
Yeah.
It's certainly something. It's like it's great to aspire to have that level of of like that fluency in music. And we should certainly, I think, try to figure out what is he talking about, or what is he doing? How can I do that in my, craft or whatever as fluently as you. But we don't have to be that same person. We don't have to be the personality. We don't have to have the influence. We don't have to have, the musical vocabulary to the same extent. We don't have to be fluent in all those instruments the same way he is.
Sure.
He's a special gift to humanity. And we're responsible for what God's given to us. So
no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now that was a huge tangent. I think my original question was on, you mentioned how many instruments, you can play. And I asked about any specific ones being a go-to for certain purposes. How would you say, just to pick that train of thought back up?
I mean, it's a difficult thing. But that's, I don't say that to kind of answer as a cop-out. I feel like whenever I'm writing something, even when I'm finished with it, I'm not at the point like where I've written something and I sit down and I feel really great. Like I just said exactly what I wanted to say. I don't know that I'll ever get there. I was listening to a really cool video recently on the Sibelius 5 and, the temperament that it seems like a lot of these composers have when they're finished writing these pieces, Sibelius specifically in this case, is like they just finish and they're like, yeah, that was it. That was done. I'm glad I wrote that. But it's not the case. It's not the case for every piece of music like that. There are some pieces that I've written that I feel like I have shared exactly what I wanted, or at least very close.
Sure, yeah.
But it's not every piece, and it's certainly not for just any one instrument in particular. I would say piano, I come close, but I'm not a great piano writer. I mean, it's not something that I'm a particularly great pianist. I mean, I got a lot of thirds and second places in these, piano competitions. I got one first place for piano one time. And that was because it was a slow piece. It wasn't anything revolutionary.
Well.
Yeah, I convinced the judge somehow.
That's awesome.
But
so funny.
But I would, I mean, I do think piano, but maybe for me it's actually a combination with chamber literature. I just wrote a string trio about a year and a half ago. About when you had me on the podcast was when I was working on that, and since then it's been completed, or at least it's in the the first edition phase, if you want to call it that. I probably don't need to revisit it, but that piece to me was kind of the first big long work, like 10-minute work for me is that's lengthy in time. Sure. So that was the first piece like that. And when I was done with it, I was like, I'm exactly what I wanted. So I think it's more if I have something that I want to say and I feel like I've done a good job of communicating that, it doesn't really matter about the instruments per se.
Yeah.
But I would say that I probably resonate better with like the stringed instruments, piano, maybe even some woodwind, not so much brass.
Yeah.
I don't play very many brass instruments.
Oh yeah.
And I certainly don't play them fluently. So
that's more Jeff's.
That's Jeff's thing.
That's Jeff's thing.
And actually, hey, shout out to Jeff. He has the New York City Brass premiering a work of his this upcoming.
New York City Brass?
Yeah.
Wait. Did I see that? Well, no, I saw a photo of him standing with like 4 other.
That was a master class he did recently. Yeah.
Okay, that was a master class.
Yeah, so this is a little different.
New York City Brass.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's no small thing.
No, yeah, they're premiering it at a church a couple blocks away from downtown Times Square.
Dude.
So we're super excited for him.
Congrats, Jeff. I'll have to text you.
Good job, pal.
Be like, please remember me. This is no, actually, Jeff, I never posted this on my social media, but just while we're giving shout outs to Jeff.
Yeah, you could call him the Jacob Collier of Pensacola. Everybody knows Jeff. And
Jeff, wait,
not
sorry, now I have to do my Jeff impression to talk about Jeff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
As one would say, Jeff is a beast. That was a horrible impression.
There you go.
But
there's Jeff Henderson. He's
Jeff
in the room
Henderson
with us.
is a beast.
Yeah, he is.
No, so this would have been well over a year ago plus. But we were doing something together, and I was doing a mixing work for him, and well, I forget if it was going to be for free or not, but I think he just got a really good deal on a pair of headphones from Guitar Center where he worked at the time. And my other,
I think I got a pair of those headphones.
yeah, and my
really nice.
my other headphones kind of went slightly out of commission, and so now it's been the only pair I've used for like.
They're great, aren't they?
Yeah, dude, they're really good.
The same pair. Yeah,
they're really good. So Jeff, I never really said thank you publicly, but thank you.
Yeah, thanks for my pair too, fellas.
Oh man,
those are pretty great.
Yeah, when it comes to writing music, I think I have found, and maybe it's because of the nature of trying to write lyrically with, the music software and production, all that, but my learning curve has been accepting the fact that I'll never say entirely what I really want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't say everything. You have to commit to saying one thing and saying it really well and making it very clear to the audience. Like, whatever the point of the song is, stick to the point. Don't overcloud it with too much metaphor. Don't try and cram in subtle lyrics to imply tons of other stories. Like, you don't have to. Like, don't be afraid to make it simple. And I feel like the last stretch of time in my life has just been getting a really cool idea for a song and then accepting, I'm trying to say too much. Like, I'm trying to, and then cutting it out and not being hard on myself about that, but just accepting like, no, like, this is okay. And there's still so much value to that one thing you want to say. It's like distilling it down to the purest point that you want to get across.
Right.
And then letting that be the driving factor that everything else is corroborating. Like, all the songs trying to communicate one emotion or one, and it's a little more nuanced and complex when you get down in the weeds, but yeah.
Jordan, I don't remember his last name. Jordan from Blimey Cat. Did you ever watch that growing up?
I did.
Yeah.
they're still going too.
They are still going. I watched
still
an
remember
episode of theirs last night.
Like 6 months
Christian
ago.
Meme Review or something.
Yeah, like 4 or 6 months ago, I had an evening where I'm like, where are all my childhood YouTubers?
Right.
And yeah, they're still going.
They're still going.
Yeah.
He has a podcast that's I don't know if it's still going or not. I used to listen to it back in the day, but something he said, this was about 2 years ago, I heard that he said, instead of trying to be I don't know quite what the word was that he used, but just very, this is terrible, I can't think of applicable to everybody. Be more
like don't be everything to everybody.
Yeah, don't try to make your music or your whatever. Don't try to make it accessible. No, don't try to market it to everybody. Have a group that you're looking toward marketing to, or if you have something to say, you don't need to say, like you were saying, you don't need to say everything on the topic. You just need to articulate that one idea. Mahler might disagree with us, and Mahler used to kind of casually say like the symphonies need to have, the symphony is like the universe, it must have everything. So
that's funny.
But he has since passed away, so but anyway, I think that's maybe a good application of that as well. Like,
and even going back to the first topic that we talked about, there is definitely some versatility in how you market yourself, but also I think a good brand has a singular idea, and like whatever your specialty is, whatever your strong suit is, lean into it. I finished reading a book a few months ago called Make Your Own Rules by Andrew Wong. He's a musician YouTuber who's been in the game a really good while. And so the book walked through all of his experience of stuff he learned. And yeah, like one thing so the point of the book really is whatever rules other people lived by to get to where they are, they might have some value, but you need to take really good inventory of what really works for you, and don't get sidetracked by other people's formulas or schedules or paths. It's just like the bottom line of the book is, if you're a musician or trying to do, like, it's such a messy journey. Like it's anything but, I mean, anybody's journey is anything but a straight line. But like But I mean, part of the book leans into is like, if you really want to make an income as a musician, you got to accept you're having multiple streams of income. Like you're not just gonna have one thing. And even him as a full-time YouTuber, most of his income didn't come from YouTube. Right. YouTube was a conduit to get a lot of other clientele and commissions and advertisement jobs and et cetera, et cetera. So like for him, it was, if you have a strength and you have a weakness, sometimes we focus too much on becoming well-rounded when there is still a way to lean into the weakness, not to turn the ship around, but to take advantage of it. Like, for example, let's say that you are you're a hardcore introvert as a musician and you're not that great at putting yourself out there. Okay. Well, on one hand, you could compare yourself to a very extroverted person that does a ton of networking. Jacob Collier. And
I don't know if he's an extrovert or not, but he has a good presence online.
He has a great presence on stage too.
Yes.
He exhibits so much energy.
Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you're totally fine. Any plug with Jacob Collier, man. Hey. But I'm going away from Jacob Collier. Andrew Huang, if you're an introvert, you don't have to try and become an extrovert to make it work on YouTube.
Right.
Like there's an audience out there that is completely okay with you being an introvert.
Yeah.
Like that's okay.
I think Charles Cornell is an example of that. Perhaps not an extroverted individual, but he has found his audience, I think, pretty well. As a more introverted musician, right?
He does he does like
he does a lot of music analysis.
Movie score moves and movie score reviews. In fact, I saw just like an hour ago the thumbnail for his review on Severance.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, nice. Where are you familiar with the concept of Severance?
No, I don't know what it is.
Okay, this is just a free flow tangent.
Okay.
So, do I think I will watch the show? No, but the concept that they let you know right away in the show is like, imagine a workplace where you have a procedure done where when you clock into work, you have no memory of your life outside of work. And when you clock out of work, you have no memory of what work is like.
Man, that'd be nice.
Yeah. Well, that's what the TV show explores.
Okay.
And so essentially, when you're inside of work, when you're in work, it's like you're innie. And your personality develops in the workplace. And then when you clock out, that's like your outie. So the innie and the outie. Yep. And so anyways, I'm gleaning this from Charles Cornell's thumbnail. But the music score, the chords alternate between representing the innie and the outie.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So like he breaks down the score, and I'm saying this having not watched the video.
Right. But
that's a good YouTube thumbnail.
Yeah.
I can give you a synopsis of what that's probably about without even seeing the episode. So
right.
But anyways, You were saying about Charles Cornell. He's done a good job at just marketing himself.
I'm just kind of piggybacking off what you said. I mean, he's an introvert. I think he's an introvert anyway.
Yeah.
And I think he does a pretty good job of finding a group that he resonates with on YouTube. I mean, he's got a great following, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
I thought one of the first videos that I came across of his was the Happy Birthday variations. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
Right. Like I might tend to be a little bit more borderline extroverted introvert, or introverted extrovert, and what is that, an ambivert or whatever? But his video, I mean, it was funny. Yeah. And I remember speaking of Jeff, I mean, he and I were in the Walmart parking lot when I first saw it, and just cracking up, just the expressions of the little Jimmy,
Yeah.
Like Jimmy 5, confused. It's just so funny. And he does a great job. But to kind of go back to that topic of just like ideas, like how do we express ourselves through music? Yeah. And not necessarily feeling like we can. That's okay. It's okay to not feel like it's okay to not we aren't meant to find fulfillment in expressing ourselves. Like, that's a very modern idea. Huh. So if we don't feel, I mean, it's a very romantic idea, right? Who said that the Enlightenment got everything right? No, certainly not me, and certainly not many others. So if we don't feel like we've been able to communicate exactly how we set out to, you might you might still accomplish your bigger purpose, which is glorifying God and edifying people. Well, at least that is my confessed twofold purpose. I've shared that with other people as well. So if that's been accomplished, then in my opinion, I think that's really what matters, even if you didn't say everything exactly what you wanted to, right?
Well, and I would add that, fulfillment is found in a relationship with God. And I think that out of our relationship with God, we have these gifts that God intends for us to express. And at the end of the day, it was always intended to be a two-person journey, us and Jesus, where, in the midst of our craft, God's intentions all along wasn't just that we would do our own thing and then say glory to God as a tag on the end.
Yeah.
That's
a good point.
It's something where, if this piece is having a hard time coming together, that's a conversation I have with God. Like, God, I'm having a really hard time with this.
Can I share a testimony of that?
Absolutely.
So Sabachthani, right? I've had since July, right, to work on this piece. And I wrote one aria from it back in November, because we were premiering a piece, and that was the text that I chose. Since then, just have been struggling with it. And I don't know if that's just spiritual warfare that's been going on.
Sure.
There is a serious spiritual attack against maybe this piece. I don't want to mystify it or anything. I don't know, but it is the gospel, and it is Christ crucified and him resurrected,
it's put on display.
And it's in an area where there is a lot of pushback against Christianity. I mean, South Florida is not necessarily it's not the holiest place in the world necessarily. I mean, I don't mean any disrespect, but it's just not a very godly place many times of the year. And so maybe that's why. So anyway, I have not been able to write this piece. And 2 weeks ago, I was going to just contact Madison and say, thank you for the opportunity. I've written nothing. I don't know why, but every time I sit down to write, I've got nothing. And I had just kind of decided, within the next couple of days, if this doesn't come about, that's just going to be the result. And so that evening, just in my, time with the Lord, I was praying about it and gave it over to the Lord and said, this is not coming together well. I don't know if this is something that you want me to write. I don't want to read too much into that, but I also recognize, Father, that I've been able to write other pieces recently for friends and for whatever, and that has not been a problem. So if you don't want me to write this piece, it's not going to get written. And what does Isaiah 55:11 say? That the word of God, that it accomplishes all that it sets out to do. Job 23 talks about this as well. It will do what it sets out to do.
Yeah.
If it's not going to set out to do something, it's not going to happen. So I gave it to the Lord. I said, thank you for being over all things. And I just give it to you. And the next day, this is so cool because it's never happened before, but for 12 hours straight, I wrote the whole 30-minute cantata. 12 hours. It was
30-minute cantata.
It was 8 hours at the desk on coffee, 2 cups of coffee and a protein shake, and of course some water. And and then I was like, you know what? I need to get up and do some push-ups or whatever because I can't stay and kind of, put myself together a little bit, make myself a little bit more presentable. Yeah. Went over to the college, sat down at the piano for the other 4 hours, wrote the second part. So it's in 2 parts. And all glory to God. And I pray.
All glory to God.
Yeah, I pray that
awesome.
I have been praying that it will be used for his glory, that the gospel will be preached, that people will respond to the gospel, and that he will be glorified. Because honestly, CJ, the music, it's not, if we're doing it for the sake of like hearing something really great, if that's the end goal, is walking away feeling proud that I wrote a piece of music or that the music hit a certain way and it made me feel so, that doesn't matter. And all of that goes away real fast. But if people will respond to this and walk away with a different appreciation for who God is, and maybe those who are not willing to consider Christ, maybe through this performance they are, then that's what matters.
Yeah.
That's what's eternal, and that's where we get fulfillment. Whether or not we feel it in this life, I don't know, but we'll reap the benefits in eternity, and that's what matters most.
That's awesome.
So
yeah, that's awesome.
So super cool.
That sounds like an 11th hour, one of those 11th hour things. I'll never forget. This is when I was in like middle of high school. When I was in high school, there were these two basketball referees named Scooby and John, and and it's this sounds like such a tangent, but
that's
I swear
fantastic. Those are no, I love those names though. I need that.
Well, what's interesting? Well, here's what's interesting about these guys. So, like, I want to say that they were in their 60s, and they both have been single their whole lives.
Okay.
So, but they're such unique guys, and one of them, I think Scooby. Part of how I knew him was not I knew him. My older brother knew him better, but he was a janitor at I want to say a Catholic school down the street. But loved God. I mean, these guys, you didn't have to talk with them long to know that they loved God. And so during high school, on occasion, I would run the scoreboard for basketball games.
Yeah.
And I remember I was talking with Scooby, and I was reading a book on prayer, and I forget what I said. He asked how I was doing. I said something. I forget what I said. But he looked at me and he said, God, oh man, what did he say? I want to get it right. There is a world of things that God won't do until you get to the end of your rope. Like Abraham, God waited until Abraham was like 100 before he had a kid. like God waited till then so that Abraham and Sarah would understand this is 100% entirely God. Mm-hmm. The rest of history will look at that as a miracle and nothing short of a miracle. Right, yeah. And there's not the slightest shred that could imply that they had anything to do with it. That it was a miracle. Right. Yep. And so, when it comes to our lives, like, there's just so much that I think God's just waiting for us to get on our knees and say, God, like, I get that I have the tool belt. I get that I have this. I get you've given me this. But honestly, God, it has to be you. Yeah. Like, it really has to be you. And just the testimony it comes out of that. I still remember, again, in high school, I was trying to write a song called Stars, which just explored how the heavens declare the glory of God. I got like 90% done, and then I just hit this wall I could not get past. And the song sat there for weeks, and I just was so frustrated. I'm like, how on earth is this not getting finished? This doesn't make any sense. And I just got on my face and said, God, why did you give me this song in the first place? Yeah. Like, why, if it's not going to get done, then, I mean, okay, but I'm just saying, God, I need you. I need you to finish this. And like in 2 hours it was done, Wow. It was one of those moments that I'll just never forget. The moment of saying, like you had said, Lord, it's got to be you. Yeah. And then just see what God does after that. And it's just absolutely awesome.
When we read in 2 Corinthians 12, I mean, there's Paul, right, with the thorn in the flesh. And my verse since my 9th grade year of high school has been 2 Corinthians 12:9, which simply says, basically, for my grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. And there's more to it than that. Sure. But that verse, when we confess that to Christ, then I trust that in our weakness, like he says, his strength is actually is more manifest when we get out of the way. Yeah. So yeah, fantastic. And yeah, like I said, like all glory to God. When we read in Habakkuk, which, by the way, I would strongly encourage you and then your listeners, if you haven't read Habakkuk, please do. It's fantastic, and Habakkuk it opens up with Habakkuk complaining to God about why is there, maybe complaining's not the right word, but just because how the Lord responds to him.
It's a lament.
He's pouring his heart out to God, saying, I'm watching a lot of evil go on in the world right now. Essentially, how long is this going to go on for? And God says, Habakkuk, I'm doing a work that if I told you, you wouldn't even believe it. And goes on to talk about the Chaldeans and such. Habakkuk immediately snaps back with I know why you're doing it. You're doing it to chastise us, or you're doing it to basically to chastise us. And not exactly. We continue to read, and at the very end, Habakkuk in chapter 3 basically says, I have watched you work. We kind of have a Job experience through Habakkuk here. I've watched you work. I've seen your power. I see how creation responds to you. And I also see, Father, that he doesn't say Father. He refers to him as the Lord. But, you have done this work. There is, I know very little. And at the very end, he says, even though there's no fruit in the field, and even though there's no flock, yet I will still take joy. And, if all this music stuff doesn't work out, the Lord has been so gracious to encourage my heart on this, because last semester was a very challenging semester for me. But watching some close friends depart from the faith, to watch friends of mine who profess to be Christians, but there is no fruit, to see people struggling and so much hurt and feeling a great lack of fulfillment in all of this, to read Habakkuk 3 and see if there's no spiritual fruit, and even if there's no flock, if there's no more children of God, the Lord will still encourage us with his joy, with his strength, with his fellowship, and all glory to God for his fellowship, because he will teach us. He will be with us. He will comfort our spirits and our discouragement and whatnot. And we have so much to be thankful for in that, because that's how in Isaiah 57, he talks about how he heals us. And the two ways that he specifically says that he heals us is by guiding us, and then by comforting those who mourn. And we are in that group as well. And so, that's a huge encouragement. And has been to me. So
absolutely. No, and it's hard to know what to add on to that. That's just really good.
I had one thing that I wanted to do while we have this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. What's up?
And that's just give maybe some practical tips to marketing, since that's the original topic here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
land the plane.
Okay, land the plane. So there's a couple things that you need. Number one, you need professional photographer to take some pictures.
Agreed.
Get some neutral but professional pictures. Find a way to take it in a studio if you can. But if it needs to be out in nature, that's fine. But ideally, take it in a studio where I wore a black suit with a black shirt, black tie, black belt, black shoes, black socks, everything, because that's what I performed. Those are our concert blacks, right?
Yep. I
have used those pictures so much. And the girl who did them for me, she charged me $30 for an hour. Now,
was she a college student?
Yeah, Blythe Lane.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what she would charge now, because that was kind of a unique situation.
Sure, yeah.
But find someone who will take solid professional photography. Bring some props. Bring your instrument. I brought some staff paper and a fountain pen.
Yeah.
And we took some pictures with that. I took my mallets for percussion because my senior recital was coming up, and then took my conducting baton. So it just had a couple things with me. So get some professional pictures taken, invest in that. Invest in a logo if you can. That's going to cost a little bit of money.
Sure.
I did mine for free through Canva. So
yeah.
Free logo.
So you designed it, or you took like a template and
I just did a little design on Canva. Cool. You need to have a logo. You need to have professional pictures. You need to, let's see here. You need to have a website. Canva also has a free website thing that you can.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. So instead of like Wix or what are some other ones where you actually have to pay for your domain?
Sure.
This, you don't have to pay for a domain. You don't have to pay for the free Wix thing, but it gives you kind of that banner on the top, and it just makes it look cheap. Canva doesn't have any of that except at the very bottom.
Okay, nice.
So I use Canva. I just keep it all on one page. My picture, artist bio, and then for me, underneath it, list of works that have premiered, a list of competitions that I've been in. If they want any of that music, I say email me at the bottom, have my email.
Oh, nice.
And my business logo.
I would also add on to that point, if you have music out there in any form, the platform called Bandzoogle.
Okay.
It's
Bandzoogle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bandzoogle. It's a website builder platform made specifically for musicians.
Great. Okay.
It does have a monthly price to stay up. Like they have a free, but for like the domain, for like your own domain, it's like $8 a month to start out. Which for the real estate of a domain, I think $8 a month
$8 is very affordable.
Yeah. So to a website, I would also encourage checking out Bandzoogle.
Great. Yeah. So figure out how to make a website, get some professional pictures taken, get your logo taken care of, squared away.
Sure.
If those are all things that you can do through someone who's a professional, by all means do it. If you have the funds to keep a domain up and going, by all means.
Yeah.
But if you can't and you're really on a budget, like I don't put any money into this right now because I'm not getting a lot of money coming out of the composition.
Agreed. Yeah.
All of this stuff so far has been free, except for the photography.
Yeah.
But the website and the logo were free.
Well, for assets that are perpetual or indefinite, I think those finances put in are a bit more justifiable.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Subscriptions are like a dark hole. Like if you're not if you don't
have consistent revenue or anything,
if you don't have consistent revenue,
predictable too.
Like I'm just at the point monetizing some of my music services with recording and mixing for some friends' music that I'm doing a year-long subscription with an AI. This is my only real subscription aside from the website, but yeah, a year-long subscription with Opus Clip so that I can I basically feed Opus Clip a 2-hour-long podcast episode and it generates like 30 reels for me.
Wow.
And then I do very minor editing under those reels, and then I can schedule them out as far as I want, and then it auto posts.
That's great.
So
yeah.
So like right now with my YouTube videos, like once every 1 to 3 weeks, I sit down and I do reels for like 2+ hours, and then like I don't have to think about posting for a few weeks.
Cool.
So,
that's great.
That's huge, no, but like the point, I say that off of your point, like I did not really consider that until I knew, I have an income outside of my day job that can justifiably support this, because I totally understand like the expense of it all.
Absolutely.
But as far as marketing goes, like if it's really going to help get your name out there and you're able to drop $100 in a year, like just a year, which that is, when you add up a lot of subscriptions, like it really adds up. But if you're really wanting the bang for your buck, like if there's something that's really going to maximize this over the course of a year, it's worth it. Or mow a lawn or two.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyways.
If you have a couple extra dollars.
Yeah, you can continue on.
Some other things that I would say is just be like kind of those things that I was saying at the beginning. Those are more mindset things.
Yeah.
Be on time, be prompt, be early, be prepared, be in the now, know what the industry standards professionals are doing. Those are all things that apply as well. Sadhaddad, S-A-A-D, and then H-A-D-A-A-D, I believe is how you spell his name. If you're a classical composer, check his YouTube channel out, and he will give you tons of tips on how to format your music, how to write how to make a cover page, how to write an artist bio, how to write a program note. Those are all incredibly invaluable. Sure. And he's not just some run-of-the-mill guy. Like he was commissioned by the LA Phil to write, piece. He's a well-established composer. He knows what he's doing. So go check out Sadhaddad. Fantastic. And just super clear, prompt. Like, he doesn't waste time in his videos.
Sure.
Everything is punctual and point. Another thing that I would say is email people. Find people to get in contact with and ask them to play your music. If it's just simple, if it's as simple as, hey, I noticed that you college students this is fine. Sure. High school students, work with your high school colleagues and friends. If you have better connections, use them. Use people in your church or whatever. But put music in front of them, make it look really nice. And kindly ask them, hey, I've been working on a couple pieces lately. You came to mind as I was looking to possibly see if some people would be willing to read through this. I'd be wondering if you had the time, if you wouldn't mind just looking through this sometime. If you want feedback, great.
Yeah.
Another way to do this, you're looking to actually get the music performed, schedule your own recital. Right, like I'm doing this here the week after the May 3rd premiere of Sabachthani. Myself, Jeff, and Brandon Schuler were doing our own recital at the church. Like we have a chapel at the church. We asked the church, hey, how much would you charge to rent us? They gave us the means to go about that.
Yeah.
And we're putting on our own composition recital.
Just take initiative.
Just do it. Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so, so finding, of course, the challenge for me, no matter the situation, I have to find musicians to play my stuff.
Sure.
So that's the biggest challenge, but all the music has already been written. So that's another one, a huge one. Do your research on score analysis. Like, you need to be reading music and listening to music as much as you are practicing your instrument. Because if you can't read your not necessarily, but there is a good chance that you're not going to be as good at writing your music. So, so there's that. You need to score analyze.
Input and output.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a hard time listening to a lot of music. I was thinking about this the other day. Like when I exercise, most of all what I listen to during exercise at this point is audio engineering podcasts.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
Great.
It's like really technical.
It really helps
stuff.
You get at that last rep.
Oh man.
Okay. Yeah. It's okay. I listen to classical music when I work out.
Oh my word.
Well, I mean, what do I have
like
to say?
ratio and compressors. Yes. Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really helps me get out that last rep.
Always push to failure.
Just like I do on my master bus in the DAW.
Yeah, that's right.
Push to failure.
Push to failure.
Oh man, I'm gonna really enjoy listening back to that over again.
Yeah, this is a unique podcast. Everything from music marketing to hitting up the gym.
I love it. Yeah, I know. I was like, okay, Daniel, let's land the plane. And man, did that plane go a lot of places.
Yeah, that plane landed as well. Anyway, so
do you have any final thoughts? Like any last thing you want to end on?
I'm not the best at this, but there's an old country song that says always stay humble and kind, or always be humble and kind, and that's not something I've always done really well, and I of course need to work on that, always continuing until the day we meet Christ. But I think that is a big factor as well. Stay humble. Humility is not trying to make yourself puny. Humility is confessing to God what is true, and that is that we are nothing and that He is everything. And when you keep that in perspective, everybody's on the same playing field. And we ought to love one another accordingly, and then be kind. I mean, there's so much like unkindness and lack of giving people grace and showing people grace. And, I think that that's just something that also needs to be encouraged as well. So in the music industry, if you can be humble, if you can be kind, that will leave a good impression, especially as Christian artists. Those are things consistent with the fruit of the Spirit. And I think that we need to. I think we need to share the gospel as musicians just as much as any pastor or missionary would, because we've been given a unique group of people to minister to. And
that's awesome. Daniel, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, man. It's been a privilege.
Yeah.
I was really excited when you gave me the opportunity. I was like, ooh, another episode. Great.
Yeah. And well, hey, guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did, and I will catch you on the next episode.